This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Report, a show made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and joining me today is Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
Well, the Lions draft board may be looking quite a bit different since the last time we recorded, so we're going to actually take a whole new dive into Lions draft talk. And the kid's back. Killian Hayes finally plays first couple of games. We'll break that down as well. It's a Fan Report.
Killian not only played, but he looked damn good. You saw glimpses of why the Pistons drafted him in the top 10 the way they did.
I was getting hype in the Thunder game.
He looked good.
Yeah.
Like, he straight up looked really good. And I was kind of surprised because I didn't expect that. Because, I mean, in all reality, sure, he showed some glimpses early on in the season, but it was a lot of inconsistency, a lot of mistakes, and you expected a lot of mistakes from a guy as young as he is. But coming back, I expected to see a lot of those mistakes, a lot of the games moving too quick for him because he never got to fully adjust. But
definitely doesn't seem that way. Like the game seems to slow down for him a bit. It seems that time when the sideline has kind of helped him just take it in a little more. His passing looks better. I think it's part of it's because, again, the game slowed down for him, but his passing was great. Dude, some of the dimes that one to in his first game, the pass he threw to Isaiah Stewart was dope. The oop to Diallo in the Thunder game was sweet. But
when I saw that the Thunder only had 8 players available for this game, I went, okay, so the Pistons are going to win, but I'm definitely going to take the under on this game. And then the Pistons put up 132.
Yeah.
I was pissed.
It was a really fun prospect game. You had a bunch of prospects for Thunder, like Poku, Theo Maledon playing for Thunder. You had a bunch of prospects playing for the Pistons. One thing I love to see with that game, though, B, Stu, and Killian combined for 10 stocks. I was like, hell yeah.
10 what?
Stocks, steals and blocks.
Oh. I've honest to God never heard those.
Wait, really?
Never in my life have I heard that before. I've never in my life heard that. I don't know if that's like a Twitter reference or what. I've honest to God never heard.
I don't know where it
and blocks be
originates.
combined to stocks.
I don't know where it originates, but yeah, that's.
All right. I mean, in all reality, the game against the Thunder, granted, take it with a grain of salt. Thunder had 8 guys playing, and none of them were actually any of their good players.
Yeah.
So take it with a grain of salt. They literally put out a G League roster with only 8 guys.
Yeah.
Their best player was Pokusevsky and Svima Hailuk.
And James Edwards had a great tweet about Poku during the game. He said, Poku's about 100 pounds away from being real nice. The man's a twig.
He seriously is. Theo Maledon's pretty decent, but like that roster was abysmal.
Got him on the fancy
for the
squad.
Thunder. He was that roster was abysmal for the Thunder. So take it with a grain of salt, but there were quite a few players for the Pistons that showed up and played really well. Obviously, Isaiah Stewart's a name that we've talked about a ton, but Jeremy Grant had a good game as well. He's actually kind of had a few. He seemed to have a pretty solid week this past week. Sadiq Bey still can't really get the shot to fall entirely. He's very inconsistent, but he has his nights.
He's in a bit of a cold stretch right now.
He is, but
it's okay.
Josh Jackson again seemed to kind of come back to life.
This is what's been interesting. It's every night ever since we acquired Diallo. It's been like Jackson or Diallo. Like it's
right. It's been one of the two. And honestly, last night
you can't really play them both together because they're both like not great shooters. So it's kind of
right. They're both really good defenders, so you can play them at the end of a game in a close game if you're in the lead. But, I mean, both of them had pretty solid games. Josh Jackson putting up 14, 5, and 2, and then Diallo 11, 8, and 4. I mean, that's a really very solid production from 2 guys that you don't necessarily expect to get it from every night. And then Sekou, 14 points. Where's that coming from? We said we had a sighting.
The killing assist to Sekou. I was like, the French connection's back, baby.
So my question is, because in all reality, if it wasn't against the Thunder and the Pistons weren't blowing them out, because in a lot of the games that are a lot closer in your average night, Sekou really doesn't see any minutes, if any at all. Has the nail been slammed into that coffin yet on Sekou? Is he done here in Detroit?
I think I really think that Troy Weaver probably has the hammer and nail in hand, and Sekou's laying in the coffin. Seku's got to make a desperate attempt to claw his way out. Like I think he's all but done just based on how much you're seeing him in the rotation. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that the management's completely given up on him, but at the same time,
sure seems like it.
You got to give like Dwayne Casey a reason to play you, and
right.
I don't think if Sekou was balling out in practice, he'd just be sitting at the back of the bench. I'm happy that he finally got some run and actually did pretty well for once.
Granted, nobody in that game played more than 25 minutes, so
but he's got to make that continued thing. Can he consistently do that? And I don't have any reason to believe he can. So.
Neither do I, because we've never seen it. And Dwayne Casey's come out and said that a reason why he's not getting the amount of playing time as he maybe would like is because of his defense. I think it goes beyond that. I really do believe it goes beyond that. It's not just his defense. It's his offensive decision-making. It's his playmaking ability or lack thereof. I think there's a multitude of reasons why Sekou's not getting any run in the lineup. And obviously last night he did up against the Thunder. But again, like I said, they didn't play anybody over 25 minutes in that game. The highest minute total was 25 from, I believe it was a bench player who picked up 25 minutes too.
Didn't Killian play 25?
It was Killian Hayes who led the team in minutes with 25 minutes, which is like a shock to me in his first game that you'd play him the most minutes of anybody on the roster.
Well, his first game would have been the Knicks, and I think he played like 20 minutes that game.
Right, you're right.
But he's resting tonight against the Nuggets.
As he should be. I wouldn't be playing him in back-to-backs for the rest of the year. I would not play him in back-to-backs for the rest of the year. But, I mean, you had a number of guys playing 23 minutes, only one of which was a starter, and that was Jeremy Grant. He played the most minutes of any of the starters.
Yeah.
So obviously it was a night off for a lot of the guys who get the most run, and that allows for guys like Sekou to get into the lineup and try to earn their keep and earn their spot on this roster for the future. And he did well one night. Let's see if he can kind of piece that together and keep it going.
Yeah.
Speaking of guys earning their spot on the roster, though, I don't know if you've heard the story of Akil Baddoo for the Tigers.
No.
Okay, so he was a Rule 5 draft pickup for the Tigers in the offseason, which basically a Rule 5 draft is players who are in the league but are they're unprotected prospects. Supposedly they're not, or I guess they're not on the 40-man roster. So they're guys that are in teams' farm systems, but they're not protected by the 40-man roster. They can be picked up by other teams.
Yeah.
If the team doesn't call him up by the end of the year, he doesn't make the spring training, or he doesn't make the roster after spring training or something like that, I believe he goes back to his old team. But if he doesn't get to play a certain amount, I think it is what it is. The Rule 5 scenario is kind of a weird rule. But anyways, so Akil Baddoo was a Rule 5 pickup.
Execute Rule 5.
He was a Rule 5 pickup. Victor Reyes was another one who was a Rule 5 pickup previous year. But so he, in spring training, was by far the best player on the roster. In spring training and down in Lakeland, he was by far the best player on the roster.
Yeah.
And absolutely just deserved and earned his spot on the opening day roster, on the 26-man roster come opening day. Earned it, and he got it. Didn't start opening day, but they gave him a start. Hinch gave him a start in game number 2. First at bat, first swing of the bat, first pitch, home run. Game 3, so his second game, hits a grand slam. So he's played 2 games, has a home run and a grand slam in those 2 games. In his career, he is without a doubt earning his spot. I think the story is just really sweet because, one, he got to have his family there for the game to watch him at his first home run in his first at bat, watch him have him see him hit the grand slam like that. It's just a cool story, and I had to bring it up considering we're talking about guys earning their roster spot here, and he's so far done it more than anybody.
Yeah, I was seeing his name all over Twitter, but now I know why. I didn't know.
That's why.
Yeah. Before we move on to NFL, because that's going to be the bulk of our show, I do have one other kind of miscellaneous NBA topic for you. Did you see ESPN's top 25 players under 25 that they just released?
I did not. For the NBA?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
So this has been making the rounds on Twitter. And I believe, I haven't seen the video. I believe Stephen A. had some choice words for whoever put this together.
Oh, God.
You said they need to be drug tested.
Stephen A is always good for a quote. I gotta say, he's always good for a quote.
This is top 5 players under 25 ranked based on potential.
Okay.
Luka's 1.
No question.
Zion's 2.
Okay.
LaMelo Ball is coming in at 3.
All right. Who's 4?
4. I'll just rattle off 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, Ben Simmons, Devin Booker, Adebayo. I'll stop there. But you also have Brandon Ingram on this list, Jamal Murray, John Morant.
I think Ingram should be higher. I think Josh should be higher. But
Ingram is down at 11 behind SGA.
I'm sorry, but Ingram is top 10.
John Morant is behind Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray and Jaylen Brown.
I disagree with Jamal Murray. Michael Porter Jr. is pretty nice. That's
Trae
a tough
Young's
one.
behind all of them that I've named so far. He's down at 16.
Okay, is it just me or is kind of the has he kind of fallen off a little bit this year?
I wouldn't say he's fallen off.
He's just not as exciting as he was. Like he's really inconsistent.
He just hasn't stepped up another level. Like he's still the same guy he was last year, which is still basically Steph Curry light. If you ask me,
he's still. I'd argue he's just extremely inconsistent right now. Like his scoring output is extremely inconsistent. His turnover numbers way too high. His shooting numbers are really inconsistent. Like when he has a bad night, he's really bad. But when he has a great night, there's not many in the league that can stop him.
Yeah.
So if he can develop some type of, a little bit more consistency with his game on a night in, night out basis, you're definitely looking at him in the top 10, maybe even in the top 5 of this. LaMelo Ball is a little bit interesting because I don't think we've seen enough of him, but if this is purely based on potential, he's a guy I would argue that the sky really is the limit with.
Yeah, but you could also argue that for guys like Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, like that's the same argument.
I would argue LaMelo Ball, if he hits a ceiling, he brings more to the table for his team than Donovan Mitchell, than Devin Booker, than all those guys. He does.
So you don't have issue with LaMelo Ball.
What LaMelo Ball brings to the table is an all-around game that also scores. He's Ben Simmons that scores, is what he is.
That's what I'm saying. So you don't have an issue with him at 3.
Not really, no. I mean, the only issue I have is because we haven't really seen it yet. We haven't seen enough of it. And that's why, like, guys who we've seen it for a few years or so, like Jason Tatum or Donovan Mitchell, it's a little bit easier to give those guys the nod. But again, we know what their potential is. We know what they could be or what they are. LaMelo, we don't, and that's why the potential gap there is so large, because we don't know what he could be yet. We have an expectation of what he's going to be and what his ceiling is, but we don't know exactly what it is yet. We just know the type of player he is and know that the sky really is the limit for him. Here's a hot take for you. I think Zion's too high on the list.
At number 2?
Yep. And the reason is, outside of, being a guy who can score a lot inside and off the dribble and be electric, and he occasionally can rebound the ball. Like, I don't know. Zion just, to me, as from the way his game is, he's Sean Kemp 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, he's showing progress defensively. Like,
he is.
Give him that.
But Kemp was a good defender. Yeah. So if he shows progress defensively and, becomes a really good defender, well, then he's still Sean Kemp 2.0 based on how he plays his game now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that obviously is a very high ceiling. Sean Kemp is a Hall of Famer. But, again, like, is that as high of a ceiling as a guy like Tatum, who may bring more to the team across the board? Or a guy like LaMelo Ball, who, again, brings more across the board? Because I personally do believe LaMelo Ball can eventually be as good of a scorer as Zion. I think he's got the tools to be a good defender. He can be a better shooter than Zion and a better passer than Zion. And he also can rebound the ball a lot. He's a triple-double candidate almost every single night. So
now, if we're talking purely about potential, though, like, you could also make the argument that a guy like Ben Simmons at 7 is way too high, because at this point, we know what he is. Like,
right. I agree with that. He hasn't
been adding anything to his game. Like,
I would put guys like Trae Young, guys like Trae Young, guys like, who else that was on that? Did we say who came in at 12 behind SGA?
12 was Jaylen Brown, 11 was Brandon Ingram.
Sorry, I'd put Ingram up above a guy like Ben Simmons. Frankly,
I think Ja's entirely too low at 15.
I do too. Like, I completely agree with you.
You know what? One I did not expect to see on this list. Number 17, over guys like Sabonis, Anthony Edwards, DeAndre Ayton, John Collins, Jared Allen, Michael Bridges. coming in at number 17.
Okay, now is where I question what they were smoking. Because don't get me wrong, I am a big Michael Bridges fan. I so badly wanted the Pistons to get him in the draft. So badly.
Same.
Like, he was my guy.
Same.
I think he can be a stud in this league. But he hasn't done anything to prove that to me or even shown it whatsoever. Like, I haven't seen that superstar type potential come out of him at all.
Yeah, like the defense is as good as advertised. He's
Right. And the dude
good
can
perimeter
shoot,
defender.
no question.
The shooting is as good as advertised, but like he probably is playing a bigger role this year because I think this is his first year as a starter.
I think
but
so.
At the same time, the ceiling that I always viewed him as was a 3-and-D specialist, and I still see it as a 3-and-D specialist. Like it's
I do too.
I don't see him being as dynamic or game affecting a player like a guy like DeMontis Sabonis, for example.
Right.
Or the way Anthony Edwards can score the ball.
I think Michael
like
Bridges his ceiling is like a better Robert Covington. Like that's what, in terms of his skill set now, it's a better Robert Covington. If he turns out to be, if he turns out to be able to be a leader, but also able to make plays off the dribble himself, then you're potentially looking at a Kawhi Leonard, and maybe that's what this guy sees, is maybe he's a future Kawhi Leonard type player. But I don't see that. I see a better Robert Covington in Michael Bridges. Now, a guy like Sabonis, he's way too low. Another guy that is Sabonis is basically Nikola Jokic light. Like, he's a guy who can pass like crazy. He rebounds like crazy. He can score at will. And Jokic is, if not the best, one of the top 2 best centers in the league. He's an MVP. He's the MVP front runner right now between him and Embiid. So, I mean, if you got a guy who's a Nikola Jokic light in Sabonis, it's hard to put him outside that top 10 if you ask me.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. A weird list. I just wanted to bring it up. That's what's tricky when you're trying to rank solely on potential. You're like, well, the ceiling of a player, I feel like, is subjective.
I was just about to say it's extremely subjective because I'll be straight up honest with you going into the draft. I'm pretty sure we're in the same boat. We didn't think Tyrese Halliburton was going to be that good. We didn't think his ceiling was that high. We thought Killian Hayes was through the roof. Well, Halliburton sure looks pretty damn good right now.
Halliburton's on this list of 21.
I think that's a little high.
above John Collins, Jared Allen, Colin Sexton.
Get out of here. Get out of here with that. John Collins? Whatever. All right, now this dude's definitely smoking now. Oh, man.
But
the problems with the list aren't necessarily entirely in the top 10 because you could make a case for all those guys where they are. Yeah. It's like in the 15 to 25 range is where the huge problems are. All right.
It was based on the rankings of 3 separate NBA insiders. But
well, they're all smoking the same stuff.
Yeah, Stephen A. wants him drug tested, so
I don't blame him. Right there with you, Stephen A.
All right, let's get into some football. So we had 2 trades go down since the last time we met up to record here. Both, I think, having a pretty significant impact on what we could see the Lions doing on draft day. So the first trade here is the Miami Dolphins traded their number 3 overall pick to the Eagles to the Niners for the Niners' 12th overall pick.
Yes.
The Niners also sent some future picks as well in this trade. The Niners then turned around and sent that 12th overall pick.
The future picks are pretty significant. Like they were.
I was just talking about the impact for this.
No, I know, but they just to kind of get an idea of what the Lions could be looking at, like just basing off of that. So
the Niners traded their number 12 overall pick, a first and third round pick in 2022, and a first round pick in 2023 to move up to 3.
So 3 first round picks to jump up 9 spots. Granted.
Yep.
One of those, getting into that number 3 spot does guarantee one of the top 3 quarterbacks, obviously. So that's obviously a big deal.
And then the Dolphins turned around and traded that number 12 overall pick to the Eagles. So they move up to number 6. The Eagles now move back to 12. And in return, the Dolphins received a 4th round pick, a 2022 first.
Repeat this trade again.
I got my things mixed up. So the Dolphins traded their number 12 to the Eagles to move up to 6.
Right.
The Eagles moved back to 12.
Right. So the Eagles got in return from the Dolphins.
No, the Eagles got in return from the Dolphins the number 12 overall pick, the 123 overall pick, which is a 4th rounder, and a 2022 first. What Miami received in the deal is a 6th overall pick and a 5th round pick. But
man, the way the Dolphins have done this rebuild is so pretty. They have like 1 million first-round picks over the next 4 years, and they're using them to be where they want in the draft. It's I love it. I wish the Lions would do something like that. Because Dolphins were already a pretty good team last year. Now you're adding a number 6 overall prospect to that, plus multiple first-round picks next year to that. How could you be disappointed in that as a Dolphins fan?
But now, just to sort everything out, instead of the Dolphins picking at 3 in front of the Lions, it's now the Niners picking at 3, and now the Dolphins are picking at 6. And
still in front of the Lions.
Still in front of the Lions. And the Eagles are out. And
so there's
already rumors that the Niners are looking to take Mac Jones at number 3 overall.
At number 3?
Yes.
I'd be shocked. I would probably laugh at that also, because he's not the 3rd best quarterback prospect, and at least in my eyes. I don't know, but and then there's more implications involved in this because
it's courtesy of Schefter too.
There's more to add for the Lions implications in this, because then the Jets went on yesterday and traded Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers for I believe, was it a 4th round pick this year and a 2nd and a 3rd next year, if I recall, which the Jets are at number 2. So that all but guarantees that the first 3 picks in this draft will be a quarterback. And then you look at 4, 5, and 6, there's very solid potential another quarterback could be taking depending on what the Atlanta Falcons do.
Speaking of what the Atlanta Falcons may do, there's also been rumors that both the Falcons and our Lions have some interest in trading back.
Yes, the Lions. Well, at this point, you almost kind of have to if you try that if you're Lions. However, it really puts a big damper. Plus, it really puts a big damper on, and this is where the big implications come from. But it puts a damper on their trade possibilities. Yeah, because now this guarantees that the top quarterback prospects that are there, the most coveted ones, will not be there. At best, you get Trey Lance available to you now, or Justin Fields. One of those two, especially if Mac Jones gets taken number 3, again, would be a shock to me. I think it's going to be either Fields or Lance that gets taken there. Because 1 and 2 are going to be Lawrence and Wilson, no question.
On the Mac Jones front, so shortly after the trade, Adam Schefter reported that the 49ers are likely to select Mac Jones with the year's number 3 pick. Shortly after that comment, Kyle Shanahan came out and said that they were comfortable with 3 of the top 5 quarterback prospects.
Which would be obviously Lawrence and Wilson.
Lawrence would be 1. And then, you could debate who, but likely Wilson.
Wilson, Lance, Jones, and Fields. Something tells me Fields is not in that list.
So, and if it's true that they're looking at Mac Jones, and it's probably going to be Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones, and those, and if the first 2 are off the board,
most likely, unless they're just kind of throwing up smokescreen and they're comfortable with all of Mac Jones, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields. I mean, that's entirely possible too, because they know they're not going to get Lawrence or Wilson. Yeah, I mean, if the Niners do take Mac Jones, it does help the Lions trade down possibilities, because that does leave a couple of quarterbacks potentially still available to you. Granted, I don't know. So
this is where I want to do the scenario play here.
I don't necessarily know that the Dolphins are done trading. I think they'd be willing to trade back again. Yeah. The Falcons are going to be willing to trade back as well, because they may be willing to take on another year of Matt Ryan before they take their quarterback. So there's teams ahead of you that could also trade back, and which would, without a doubt, hurt your return in trading back if you're the Lions, because that means less if you were you don't have the quarterback available. What it does mean for the Lions, though, is a lot more will be available to you at number 7 if you choose to stand pat. A lot more talent will be there. And that's where I do want to get into the scenarios here. So I want you to throw them out to me. I'll give
it's just one. It's Daniel Jeremiah's most recent mock draft that he published this morning, the morning of our recording here. So I'm just going to start listing off the picks, and then when we get to 7, you tell me what you do. So at number 1 overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars take Trevor Lawrence. Big surprise. After trading Sam Darnold, with the number 2 pick, the New York Jets take Zach Wilson.
Big surprise.
At number 3, the San Francisco 49ers make those rumors come to fruition and take Mac Jones.
I still don't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it with that.
Number
but
four.
There's always a big shock in the top 3 with quarterbacks, though.
Yeah.
Always.
Number 4, the Atlanta Falcons stay put. Can't pass up taking a quarterback to succeed Matt Ryan and take Trey Lance. So
Okay.
4 quarterbacks in the first 4
This
picks.
is where things start to hurt the Lions because the fourth quarterback being taken in that top 5, that hurts the Lions big time. That makes it less likely for them to find a suitor to trade back. Continue.
Number 5, the Cincinnati Bengals, the guy we discussed last podcast, Kyle Pitts.
This one hurts.
At number
This is where I would think the Lions would have an opportunity to get Kyle Pitts, but all right.
At number 6, the Miami Dolphins decide to help Tua out, not by taking Penei Sewell, by grabbing Jamar Chase.
Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank you, Miami. Thank you, Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's stupid not taking Penei Sewell, by the way. Protect your biggest asset that in Joe Burrow, who, by the way, just tore his ACL.
So now the Lions are sitting at 7.
Penei Sewell.
Doing, Nick?
Penei Sewell. Like, I will run up to the podium and do a happy dance as I hand over the envelope.
Let me remind you, Justin Fields is on the board.
Penei Sewell.
You don't try to make a trade.
Penei Sewell. You will not. Let me put it this way. The reason I don't make a trade is you will not find a talent as high or as good as Penei Sewell anywhere in this draft outside of where you are now. If you move back, you will not get the type of return that you get out of Penei Sewell. Doesn't matter what player it is, who it is, where you are. You won't get the return you get out of Penei Sewell. You draft Penei Sewell, he plays the right side, and you have the left side the way it is. You now have potentially the makings of a top 5 offensive line in this league. Right there.
You know what I find very interesting in this draft? So, because what I was going to propose was, do you think that, so they have the Denver Broncos taking Penei Sewell at number 9, is who Daniel Jeremiah has.
Okay, what do the Lions do?
Lions took Justin Fields here.
Pass. I mean, okay, I can't say that.
But this
Justin Fields, like, okay, yeah, I'd be happy with Justin Fields. I like him as a prospect. The dude's got a great arm. He's probably the best quarterback ever to come out of Ohio State. Not that the ceiling is all that high. But I think Justin Fields could be the real deal. But there is a reason that there's not a lot of hype around him going at the very top of this draft. A lot of prospects don't really believe in him. There are a lot of scouts don't really believe in him. There's something about his game that they don't love, and it probably has a lot to do with the fact that the way Ohio State quarterbacks are coached, that style of play, that game plan does not translate to the NFL, and they struggle to pick up the NFL system.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it. I still think the talent is there with Justin Fields, but again, in terms of what the player could be at the position, Penei Sewell is better than Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm. And here's what's interesting, and I want you to make this make sense for me. The reason Penei Sewell went at number 9 and not number 8 to the Panthers, who also need offensive linemen, is because the Panthers took a different offensive tackle in Rashawn Slater.
Yep, I've heard this one as well, and I've heard Rashawn Slater actually could be the better pick depending on what you want to do. And if it's a situation where you are going to be looking for a right tackle 100%, Rashawn Slater could be actually the better prospect there. And the reason is Rashawn Slater is a guy who is a swing tackle. He plays both sides of the line. You would be converting Penei Sewell to right tackle and hoping that he sticks there. Rashawn Slater has played both positions and plays them both very well. He is a swing tackle. Penei Sewell has not shown that ability. I expect him to have that ability. I'm willing to put a lot of money down that he does. But again, Rashawn Slater is more of a guarantee to be a good right tackle than Penei Sewell technically is. But Penei Sewell has the highest ceiling of, I would argue, almost any player in this draft. He's probably a number 1 pick in most years.
So here's the way I look at it. And I think you have 3 different ways that would make sense for you to go if you're the Lions. One is exactly like you're saying. You stay put and take Penei Sewell.
That would be a dream scenario for me. But 2, continue.
Which is what Daniel Jeremiah is proposing here, is we stay put and take Justin Fields.
I don't think that's that likely. I really don't.
But here's the thing. As unlikely as it is, I'm just saying if you're sitting in the face, if you're sitting at 7, staring in the face Justin Fields, so Daniel Jeremiah has a guy like Micah Parsons, for example, going at 15. I think you can make a trade with it. I can think you can make a trade with a team like the Patriots to move up to take Justin Fields, and you get draft picks, you get some significant draft capital, and you sit there in the middle of the draft and you let Michael Parsons come right to you.
I don't necessarily know you'd get all that significant of draft capital out of it. You may get one first-round pick, and that's about it, to move back from 9 to 15. Because, again, it's only 6 spots.
7 to 15. 7 to 15.
7 to 15, sorry. It's 8 spots, but, again, it's not like it's 8 spots to get one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft. It's 8 spots to get who's now looked at.
Depends who you ask.
The general consensus is Justin Fields is not one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft. It's the general consensus of most scouts throughout the league. The general consensus he's not even a top 4 quarterback in this draft apparently anymore. I disagree with that, but so we don't even know if the Patriots like Justin Fields. They may say no, thank you.
I'm just
I do
hypothesizing.
Technically agree with you, but again, if Penei Sewell is available there, you have elite level potential with Penei Sewell. I don't think there is another player in this draft left on the board that I would sit here right now say elite level potential.
No, you're right about that.
Unless you're talking about Jamar Chase.
Well, he's not on the board.
I was going to say, I don't think he was on the board. So, I don't think there's elite level potential outside of Penei Sewell there. So, trading back doesn't really do me any good. I'm trying to rebuild the team. I need as much elite level talent as I can get. I have a chance to have one of the best offensive lines in the league. I want to make a position group on my roster elite tier. And that's what it would be with Penei Sewell. Because you have the left side of your line is already really good. Really good. You shore up that right side with Penei Sewell, and damn, things are looking bright.
Didn't Penei Sewell play in the left side of Oregon or no?
Yes. And I thought it was Alabama he played at.
No, Oregon.
Was it Oregon? Okay, but yes, he played on the left side. That's why I'm saying he's not a swing tackle. They would be drafting him to move him to the right side because your left tackle's locked in. Taylor Decker got a huge contract. He ain't moving. So you would be drafting him to play right tackle. And
so you think he can move from left to right tackle?
Absolutely. I 100% believe that. That's why the Panthers are taking Rashawn Slater at number 8 instead of Penei Sewell in his mock draft is because Rashawn Slater played right tackle along with left tackle. He's a swing tackle. That's why some scouts believe Rashawn Slater is better fit to play the right side is because he's done it. Versus Penei Sewell never has. But
you think he definitely could if you wanted.
100%.
Is what you're
I
saying.
believe that. Yes, he's got the tools, the technique, the strength, the athleticism, the physicality. He's got every tool you'd ever want out of an offensive tackle on either side of the ball, either side of the line. And here's the other reason I don't think the Lions would be looking at Justin Fields at number 7. And frankly, why I don't even necessarily believe a team would really be serious, think the Lions take the Lions seriously at taking a quarterback at number 7. I don't think there's teams that would be all that threatened by the Lions at number 7 with Justin Fields there. Reason is, Lions just restructured Jared Goff's contract. He's here for a while now. He's the quarterback for a while, and you're paying him a lot of money to be that guy. So I really don't think the Lions are thinking quarterback right now. Maybe in a year or two, but right now I don't think that's the case.
All right, you ready for scenario number 2?
Yep.
This is Mike Tannenbaum of ESPN. And this mock draft was also this morning, I believe. So he's got Jacksonville again. I think you can guess it. Trevor Lawrence. Number 2, Zach Wilson. We already got that. Number 3, San Francisco. Mac Jones as well. 4, Atlanta Falcons. Take Trey Lance. So far, it's the same.
Quarterbacks galore.
Since he takes Penei Sewell at 5.
That's what I think is likely to happen, and I think that's the smart move by Cincy.
Dolphins take Jamar Chase.
Again, smart move for the Dolphins. Give Tua some weapons.
So now what are you doing if you're the Lions?
Kyle Pitts. I'm potentially looking at maybe trading back here, but
Mike Tannenbaum has the Lions taking Jalen Waddle.
I don't like small receivers.
Do you know where Kyle Pitts goes in this mock?
Probably number 7 or number 8.
To the Eagles at number 12.
Wow. The Eagles get a steal.
Yeah, right?
I get why there's a lot of detractors with Kyle Pitts because, he's another tight end. We don't want to go that route. He's not just a tight end, though. 1, he's played wide receiver in the college level. 2, dude runs routes like crazy, man. He's so good. And I've talked about Kyle Pitts enough on this show. Again, elite level talent available to you on the board there.
Yeah.
Take it. I don't think Jalen Waddle is that. I don't think Devontae Freeman is considered elite level potential. He's probably going to be a really good receiver. There's also high bust potential with a guy like Devontae Freeman, Jalen Waddle.
Devontae Smith.
Devontae Freeman's a running back. Yes. Already in the league. Not very good anymore. Devontae Smith.
Already reached and then fell below his potential.
Yes.
And then Carolina takes Justin Fields at number 8, which I think is an interesting fit right there.
I think that's interesting entirely. When did Tannenbaum do this mock draft? Was it before they traded for Darnold?
Oh, this was this morning.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Very interesting, because Carolina still has Teddy Bridgewater.
Yep.
So you mean to tell me you're going to have Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, and Justin Fields in your locker room for training camp?
Here's his explanation. He says
one of those guys ain't making it through.
He says that Panthers dealt 3 picks to the Jets for Sam Darnold on Monday, but I still think QB is the play in round 1. Seriously, Darnold is owed roughly $24 million over the next 2 years, and Fields would be on a rookie contract. The worst case here, Carolina has 2 good, young, cost-effective QBs and can make a decision and move one of them down the road, and the Panthers could still get something for Teddy Bridgewater. And for what it's worth, Panthers GM Scott Fitterer agrees. I'm not sure who he's referring to there, but
I don't see it. I don't see the Panthers wasting that draft pick on a third quarterback when they've already invested a lot of their future in a potential young quarterback in Sam Darnold.
So Scott Fitterer said that trade for Darnold doesn't take the Panthers out of the mix for a QB in the draft. That reeks of smokescreen to me, but
that definitely reeks of smokescreen. 100%. I don't see the Panthers going for quarterback.
I feel like that's him saying, if we're saying, hey, Justin Fields is there, we're going to take him if you don't trade with us.
Yeah, pretty much. Whatever.
You better trade up so you can get him.
Oh, look at this. He's right here. It's like the dude with the old man with the fishing rod and the dollar on it. Oh, you got to move faster than that.
Just ignore the fact that we traded away 3 draft picks to bring in Sam Darnold.
No way. Honestly, does anybody else believe that this is an awesome move for Sam Darnold and I actually think he can be a really good quarterback in this league? Or am I alone on that? I think he got a raw deal in New York. The Jets are awful.
I think anyone that's playing for the New York Jets is getting a raw deal.
Okay, all right. I straight up, he was throwing to Jamison Crowder as his number 1 receiver for a few years. That's bad. No disrespect to Jamison Crowder, but he ain't a number 1.
I saw a tweet today. It was this guy was saying, I'm only 20 years old, and I've already seen my dad think that Chad Pennington, Mark Sanchez, and Sam Darnold are all the saviors for the Jets.
I mean, Mark Sanchez did take him to an AFC title game.
He did.
And Chad Pennington wasn't all that terrible either.
I liked Chad Pennington.
I did too. Call me crazy. But
I do find Mark Sanchez's fall off the face of the map to be like one of the odder drop-offs.
So enigmatic. It's so odd. He literally, I don't know, maybe the team around him was just really good. And then when that started to fall apart, you saw Mark Sanchez actually get exposed for what he really was. That's entirely possible. Mm-hmm. But man, did he fall off the face of the earth. But no, I straight up believe that Sam Darnold in the right spot is a really good quarterback. I think there's a ton of talent there, and frankly, he's gonna find that receiving core in Carolina real nice. And you got McCaffrey. It's gonna be real nice down there, especially if they find a way to bring back Curtis Samuel, because that trio was dirty. Like DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson. Yeah, that group. That's a hell of a lot better than Jamison Crowder and Brashad Perriman. Let me just throw that out there.
Yeah. So, just out of curiosity, would you boycott this team if we took Jalen Waddle with Kyle Pitts on the board?
I'd be pretty pissed. I'd be pretty damn livid. Yeah, not just to mention I don't even think Jalen Waddle was really necessarily the best receiver on his own team. If I'm taking an Alabama receiver, I'm probably leaning Devontae Smith. I think he's got more elite. I mean, he's a Heisman winner. He's got more elite level playmaking. Devontae Smith was the better
receiver on the team. There's just the question of
there's a lot of questions on whether or not that was true, because Jalen Waddle really didn't play in his final year. He was hurt. So and there was a lot of prospects going in. There's a lot of people that believe going in Jalen Waddle was the guy that was the number 1 on that team.
He was initially supposed to be.
Yeah, and then Devontae Smith kind of overtook him. Right, because he got hurt, though. He really didn't play that much. I think he only played 3 games in his final year.
So who do you think is more likely, if either, to be there for the Lions at 7 between Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase?
I think Kyle Pitts is probably the more likely guy. mainly because I think there are teams who won't take a tight end in the top 5. But
And I do think Jamar Chase is probably unquestioned top receiver in this draft.
yes, no question. I mean, Kyle Pitts is unquestioned top tight end.
All right,
But again,
last
it's
question.
tight end versus receiver.
If you're somehow by some miracle you're sitting at 7 with both Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts on the board, then who are you taking?
Oh, you're mean. You're mean. Next, you're going to ask me who do I take between Penei Sewell, Jamar Chase, and Kyle Pitts. Like, come on. God.
I can answer first if you want.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I think that's the one scenario where I take a receiver over Kyle Pitts. I mean, yeah, and I think Jamar Chase is the one guy that I would say, okay, I'll take Jamar Chase.
See, I feel like that's the safer pick. I'll be honest with you. I feel like it's a safer pick. And a pick that would probably be more popular amongst the fan base. I don't know, man. Something about Kyle Pitts. And I know I'm drinking the Kool-Aid hardcore with this one. And I mean hardcore, like straight up Jim Jones up in here.
Oh, Megatron Light, you want to throw it out?
I mean, not necessarily, but like there are so many similarities here with how the whole Megatron scenario went down. Like we had already grabbed too many receivers in the draft and they haven't panned out. Oh, so, why would we go back to this well? And then Calvin Johnson becomes just this elite level generational talent. It's kind of the same deal with Kyle Pitts in the tight end position. I'm just saying. Like, don't get me wrong. TJ Hawkinson's a great player. I think he's going to be really good. I'm not going to say he's ever going to be Travis Kelce or someone, but he'll be a really good tight end in this league for a long time. Yeah. But, like, I don't know, man. There's just so many. Like, we went through Pettigrew. We went through Ebron. Neither of those worked out. TJ Hawkinson's a nice player.
That's one thing that's scaring a lot of Lions fans is that's another guy that Kyle Pitts is drawing comparisons to in terms of the type of player he is Eric Ebron.
I think those people didn't do their homework at all. Yeah, those people had no idea who Kyle Pitts is then.
I agree he's miles better than Eric Ebron. I agree with the comparison in terms of the type of player as in like he's purely a route running, pass catching, tight end, almost built like a receiver.
Except one of those two players had scouting reports on him that said he had hands of stone.
Exactly.
And it wasn't Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to say that anybody who's worried about comparisons to Eric Ebron needs to actually do their homework on Kyle Pitts and learn what the scouting reports actually said about Eric Ebron. Because going into the draft, Eric Ebron was not a top 10 prospect. He was not a top 10 draft pick. He was that was a reach for the Lions. A reach. He also played at North Carolina, who really isn't known as being a massive football school. I know they've gotten a lot better in recent years, but not really a massive football school. Florida kind of is a massive football school, and I know they're not like as good as they were with Tim Tebow, but still, do your homework on Kyle Pitts and what the scouting reports actually said on Eric Ebron, because they're not similar in so many ways at all.
I feel it. No, I agree with you.
Because I'll tell you right now, whereas Eric Ebron was not looked at as a top 10 prospect by most scouts across the board, I don't know of a single scout who doesn't consider Kyle Pitts a top 10 prospect. I don't know of a single one. Any other scenarios, or was that it?
That was those were the two. Those were the two most recent mocks that I wanted to throw out as scenarios.
So then let me ask you, Andrew.
Yeah.
You're Brad Holmes here. You're sitting at number 7. You have Tannenbaum's draft in front of you, where Justin Fields is available, Penei Sewell's available. Where do you go here? What do you do? Or what is your scenario that you think is most likely for the Lions, regardless of what is ahead of them right now? According to these two guys, but where do you think the Lions are most likely to go at number 7 here? Trade back, take a guy,
Depending on how much demand you can generate for Justin Fields at that spot, I would be a heavy proponent of trading back because my guy is Micah Parsons, but at the same time, from who's left on the board, but at the same time, Penei Sewell, I agree, is the only player left you can say is like a top tier talent left on this board, especially top tier at this position. So I would be completely on board with grabbing Penei Sewell. It's just I'd be very curious to see what kind of return you can get from trading back and having a quarterback needy team come in and grab Justin Fields. with the idea that you may still be able to land Micah Parsons. So that'd probably be my ideal scenario, assuming you land Micah Parsons in the trade back. But
see, Micah Parsons guy I like. I don't see him being an elite level talent. And like, say the Patriots were to come calling. All right, Bill Belichick gives you a ring. Says, all right, I want to move up to number 7. I want to take Justin Fields. You can move back to 15. We'll give you our first next year and our 4th next year. Are you taking that pick? Are you taking that trade?
You said the first, so their pick now, their first next year and their 4th next year?
Yes. And I think that's probably more than what they'd actually offer you, if frankly.
I'm going to say yes, because I'm going to go on a limb and say I don't think the Patriots are going to be very good again this year. So I think it's going to actually be a really solid draft pick.
I don't know that I say yes if Penei Sewell's on the board in front of me. Because I know what I'm going to get out of Penei Sewell. I feel strongly enough in what I believe there. And I've been saying it for years, especially on this show. I'm a big proponent of, if you have an opportunity to make a position group on your roster elite tier, you do that. Because that's how you win. You be elite tier, elite somewhere. And if the Lions had Penei Sewell on that offensive line, I think that puts them in that elite status right there. I fully believe that. And if your offensive line is elite level, look at what the Dallas Cowboys managed to do with Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott when they had an elite offensive line. Now that they don't have an elite offensive line, they don't look so good. Zeke looks like a bum, and Dak broke his ankle.
Yeah, and we've missed on enough linebacker picks that like our linebacker. I mean,
I'm not going to base our history of drafts as saying we shouldn't go that route.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we've missed on enough linebacker picks to the point where we've actually invested a lot of first round, second round picks in linebackers. To the point where it should be an elite unit group, but like I'm saying, we've missed on enough picks where it's just not.
Right. I don't think Micah Parsons takes you up to that level in any way. I think Micah Parsons makes you from abysmal to below average. I don't think he's that good. Like, he's good. Don't get me wrong. I love him as a prospect, and if we do end up moving back to 15, that's the guy I want. But I don't think he's good enough necessarily to take us to, like, he won't give us as big of a jump up in our position group as Penei Sewell will. You know, he'll help the linebacking core a lot, but I do still think that the Lions linebacking core with Micah Parsons will probably still be in the lower half of the league.
So would you be actually upset if we stayed put and took Justin Fields at 7 with Penei Sewell on the board?
Yes. Because again, I don't see a scenario where I don't see the likelihood of him playing on this as the starting quarterback for years to come, because if he does, then we wasted a lot of money restructuring Jared Goff's contract and a lot of time. And I'd be pretty damn disappointed at that point. The Lions essentially signed, sealed, and delivered what their quarterback situation is going to look like over the next 2 to 3 years by restructuring Jared Goff. And not to say that I have a problem with that, because I do believe Jared Goff can be good. If it doesn't work, well, then it's a failure, and that's what it is. There's no way around that. But I understand what they're doing with Jared Goff by doing that. They're going to trust Jared Goff to be the quarterback for this team for years to come. He is still young, and they're going to build around him. And if that's and considering we know what they've done with Jared Goff's contract, building around him, well, that's what they're going to have to do, and that's what I want them to do now. And protecting that asset by getting Penei Sewell and then having an elite level offensive line. Like, when's the last time we can say the Lions had a top 5 offensive line in this league? I'll tell you right now, it ain't happened since Barry.
Nope.
So you have a chance to have an elite position group. I'm going with it, and not only that, it's one that's in the trenches, which is where you win ball games.
Yeah.
So Jared Goff probably looks a hell of a lot better when he's got a really good offensive line in front of him. Not to mention, you got to remember, you've also invested a lot of draft capital in these running backs. You want them to look pretty damn good, don't you? Well, a good O-line certainly helps that.
True.
So you help two people out in that
you might be seeing Lions fans suddenly get hyped about what's his face, DeAndre Swift, all over again.
Oh, I'd be riding that train. I would be the first one to jump out and say I think DeAndre Swift hits 1,000 yards next year.
Ooh.
Give him the run. He hits 1,000 yards if he's got an offensive line like that.
By the time this comes out, we'll be just about 3 weeks out from the draft. Almost, I think, exactly 3 weeks out from the NFL draft. So we got more draft talk coming for you guys.
We do.
But
Would you be disappointed if the
one.
Lions took Fields at 7? I don't think I got your opinion on that because we got the trade back opinion.
Yeah.
If the Lions went and grabbed Justin Fields at number 7, would you be disappointed?
It's not my ideal. It's crazy how much we pivot throughout draft season because
Oh my God, I think we
started was like
eight
get
different
Justin
guys.
Fields at any like cost.
Right.
But no, like I think I would be because of the fact that one, again, you have an elite talent on the board in Penei Sewell, and two, if you don't want to take that, you pass up the opportunity to collect draft capital. Potentially have 3 first-round picks in next year's draft for a quarterback that is going to be sitting on the bench for the next couple of years and may not even pan out. So,
I mean, I'd argue
say,
that the likelihood he pans out is pretty slim. Quarterbacks don't pan out a lot in the NFL.
Yeah. So, yeah.
The reason there's only about 10 of them that are actually, or 15 at most, that are actually any good.
I'd probably be disappointed because you could have seen yourself in a position to take an elite quarterback in the next draft with the amount of draft capital you could have gotten trading back, or again, you could have gotten elite talent in Penei Sewell.
What if Penei Sewell's not available, but Kyle Pitts is?
I like Kyle Pitts.
What if neither are available? I don't even know if that's possible, but what if neither are?
Jamar Chase.
You're pretty much on the same boat as I am.
Because if neither of them are available, I'm assuming Jamar Chase will be there. So
technically speaking, that would as long as the top 4 are quarterbacks, that would have to be possible.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're almost guaranteeing you get one of the top 3 players that we're looking at this point because there's going to be 3 quarterbacks taken ahead of you.
Yep.
Probably a 4th with the Atlanta Falcons. So, or if they trade out, it's probably to a team getting a quarterback. So
this is why I want to do these scenarios because the fact that the Niners traded to 3 and are interested in Mac Jones makes things a lot juicier for the Lions. I feel like.
See, I'd argue it hurts them. It makes Justin Fields available, but I would honestly,
which is a lot sexier of a prospect to dangle in front of people than Mac Jones. I feel like.
I disagree because the teams you'd be dangling the player in front of are teams like the Patriots who. Mac Jones ain't that far off from a guy like Tom Brady in terms of skill set. Pocket passer and high-level pocket passer. Talent, like what Belichick built with that offense, Mac Jones can run that. I'm not confident Justin Fields can run that. So I would argue Mac Jones may be a guy who would be a little bit easier to dangle in front of. I mean, this talent level is not as high, obviously. The playmaking ability is not as high. I mean, Justin Fields is a dynamic talent. Mac Jones isn't. But
that's why I said it was like a bit of a sexier prospect to dangle.
Sexier, yes.
That's what I said.
Sexier, sure. But is he the prospect that teams behind you necessarily would be more interested in? That's where I'd say probably not. But boy, has Mac Jones stock gone up.
Right? When we started doing draft talk, Mac Jones was in the 20s. And now,
yeah.
Now number 3.
Do you actually think the Niners would take Mac Jones at number 3?
I tend to believe Schefter. So
Schefter is a pretty reliable source. I mean, he isn't any kind of shams or Woj, but
he's like 1B to their 1A.
Yeah. Mac Jones at number 3. That just puts a weird wrinkle in things. It really does. And I mean, Mac Jones for the Niners kind of makes sense because Jimmy Garoppolo is not a scrambler. Could you imagine Justin Fields on that Niners roster?
I can.
I don't know.
I think the jersey would look nice on him.
I mean, I'm sure it would. It's a nice looking jersey. I don't know. I don't know
wouldn't
that
be
I see
too far off from Ohio State jersey.
Right. I'm saying like in the scheme.
Oh, I was saying literally like look good.
I'm saying in the scheme.
Yeah, because again, the Niners, unless they're going to change things up this
look
year,
at what they have with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a pocket
have been a
passer.
very run heavy scheme. Though.
Yeah, but with running
That's their
backs.
offense.
With running backs, though.
Exactly. But then you add another dimension to that run attack with Justin Fields. I do think that could fit.
I don't know. Because they'd be changing a lot by doing that, you know? They'd be changing a lot of their looks by doing that. They'd bring in the options and...
It'd be fun.
Do you think their offensive line is athletic enough to do that?
That I don't know.
Well, that's what they'd have to figure out. That's a big factor. You can't really run the option if you don't have an athletic O-line because they got to pull a lot.
I'd be bullshitting you if I told you I knew because I don't I don't pay enough attention.
What do you mean you don't scout offensive line for the San Francisco 49ers? Come on. No, I'm kidding.
I barely know the Lions' offensive line.
Name one player on the Niners O-line.
Ooh, got me there.
Yeah, I don't think I could name one either. Not off the top of my head, no way. I mean, you give me names, I'd probably say, yeah, 49ers offensive line.
That'd be a fun
name out of my hat.
That'd be a fun game to play. Like, all right, 49ers offensive line. Is he or is he not part of it? We're running out of time here, so I wouldn't say it's due right now, but like...
All right, quick, Taylor Lewan.
No.
Is Taylor Lewan still in the league?
No.
I don't actually think
if he is, I don't know what team he's on.
He's on the Tennessee
All
Titans.
right.
I thought he was on the Titans.
To close it out, I'll give you the 5.
Here is a name you will recognize on the Niners offensive line.
Laken Tomlinson.
Yes, he is on their offensive line. He's a left guard. But here's another name: Trent
Williams.
Mike McGlinchey. Trent Williams, their best left tackle, arguably one of the best left tackles in football. But Mike McGlinchey, we talked about him a lot in draft talk, I believe, on our live show.
Yeah, Notre Dame guard.
Yep. Tackle. Trent Williams is a big name, yes. But either way, and what we say now is probably going to change next week. Things are going to be completely different, look completely different. We could see more trades, who knows? But it's the draft is always changing, as evidenced by how many guys we've talked about the Lions taking or what they're doing at number 7 over the last 6 weeks. But so we just give our opinions from what we see now.
It'll be interesting. I wish we could do a live podcast like we used to do for our live show during the draft.
That'd be pretty cool. My question for you is, and we'll close it out with this: Do the teams trading up, i.e. the Niners and then the Dolphins trading back up ahead of you, does that help or hurt the Lions at number 7?
I think it helps. Does it lower your trade prospects? If you don't think you're going to be able to move on Justin Fields, then yeah, it lowers your trade prospects. But I think it helps because of the fact that the Lions, it was starting to look like they weren't really in the QB market this year in the draft, and it allows a lot of the...
But Brad Holmes says that the QB is absolutely where they're looking at.
That's if Justin Fields falls. Smoke screen time. But no, it allows like a lot of the playmakers and a guy like Penei Sewell to fall to you. Now you actually have a legitimate shot at having one of those big 3 in Penei Sewell, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase being there at 7, where previously I would have probably said all 3 of them might be gone by the time you're picking. I say it helps.
I'd actually 100% agree with you. It hurts them in terms of trade value and trade market, but it definitely helps them in terms of what could be available to you at number 7. Because, again, in weeks past, we've talked about Micah Parsons being the pick at number 7. Why? Because the elite talents in Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell, they weren't there. Even Devontae Smith in some weeks wasn't there to go along with those guys. So to see now that you are almost guaranteed to get one of those 3 guys, that's pretty damn big if you're the Lions and you decide to stand pat at number 7 for sure. So, all right, that is going to close it out for this week, guys. Thank you for listening. Andrew, thank you for joining me. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast. As always, follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport. We will catch you guys next week. Give us your thoughts on what you think the Lions should do at number 7. If Justin Fields is there, Penei Sewell, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, who knows?
I think this draft got a lot more interesting, personally.
I do too. I'm curious. When was the last time we saw 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 10? I have no idea. I'd have to look. That's one I'd have to look up. But it's obviously going to be an interesting draft. As we get closer and closer, we're going to get more of a feel for what the Lions could do. But, I mean, everything we say here probably isn't accurate anyway, so, whatever. But that's why it's by fans.
For fans.
Because we're not ever, usually, sometimes, almost always right. But we'll catch you guys next week. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for listening. Have a good one. Peace out.
Peace.